Hi everyone, welcome. So in today's video, I'm going to be comparing taking Amtrak in a sleeper accommodation to flying. So a really big common complaint is the high prices of Amtrak sleeper accommodations. So even in their economy sleeper accommodation, which is called the roomette, uh, the prices for these types of rooms are usually pretty expensive. So for example, let's look at prices for the Coast Starlight train from Los Angeles to Seattle, and we'll look at trains departing on a Thursday with one person, so single occupancy for this route. So we'll let it load here, and what it shows is that the cheapest price for a roomette is $432 for one person. So just starting off, there's a wow factor. Wow, that's really expensive, and it is. Considering that these rooms don't even have a private bathroom or private shower. But let's kind of dig more into this and consider this price and consider the alternatives to put it in perspective. So here I made a Google Sheet to compare riding in a roomette versus flying. So first we'll put the price for a roomette right here. So a roomette costs $432. This is a low bucket, so this is the cheapest you're going to find without any extra discounts. So $432, but we have to consider that this price is all inclusive, which means transportation is included. The roomette takes you from Los Angeles to Seattle, so if you're trying to have a weekend trip in Seattle, it gets you there. Then for accommodation, the train, it takes about 36 hours, I believe, from Los Angeles to Seattle, which includes one night on the train. So for accommodation, one night is included. And for food, this $432 ticket comes with all meals, so 3 meals a day. On this train in particular, because of the timing, on the first day of the train, you get lunch and dinner, so you board in the morning on the first day, and then the next day, you get into Seattle at about 9 p.m. So you get lunch and dinner on the first day, and then breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the second day. So food is fully included. So these are kind of the three objective perks, objective items that are included with this $432 price. But I added a fourth factor in here to fully consider the option of an Amtrak roomette, and I call this fourth factor the novelty factor. And what this means is that taking the train is an exciting, it's a unique prospect. So there's value in the fact that the train is transportation, accommodation, and it gives free food, but there's something more, and this novelty factor can be different depending on who you are. So if you're just trying to get from point A to B, this novelty factor might be very low. You wouldn't be willing to pay much more to take a roomette, but if this novelty factor is high for you, then you would consider paying a pretty hefty price for the roomette. So I'll just say the novelty factor varies depending on who you are. So wow, $432. That's a lot of money. I'll admit it, even though I love taking the train. But to put this number in perspective, let's consider the price you'll pay for flying. And the way I'll do this is I'll consider a flight that leaves around the same time as the train, and I'll consider that if you fly, you would spend a night in Seattle versus spending a night on the train. So you'd have an extra night in Seattle, but what flying would mean is that you wouldn't have food included. So I'm going to kind of give a ballpark estimate of what it might cost to fly in this type of situation, and I'll start with the flights. So in this kind of simulation I'm running right now, I'll look at business class flights. So starting in Los Angeles, and we're going to Seattle, and we're looking at one-way flights, And I'm going to do business class because I think that's the best comparison to a private room. And we're looking on January 27th for the departure. And what comes up is 229, 239. Let's find a morning flight. So the morning flight, which is a comparable departure time to the train, which is 9 a.m. departure, 9:51 a.m., is this Delta flight. So it costs $239 in business for a one-way. So let's consider this. So transportation is $239 for flying in business class. So that's our first piece of the equation. And next up is accommodations. So flying there, it gets you there faster, but you have to consider that you get there a day earlier than the train, so you have to factor in one night at a hotel. So let's look at the ballpark prices for a hotel. And again, we're looking at this Thursday to Friday in Seattle, and I'm looking single occupancy. So let's see what it brings up. So the Hyatt House for $129, and I would say like a 2 to 3 star hotel is a solid equivalent to Amtrak. And this is a bit subjective. Somebody might think an Amtrak train is more like a hostel, and some people might think more highly of the train. So I'll try to kind of find a middle ground property to consider both sides. And something else to consider is the reviews. So if it gets bad reviews, I won't factor that in. So I'll look at hotels with a very good score and not hostels. But so I mean, I think a solid price would be maybe 125 to 150. I think that would be fair. So we'll factor that in. I'll say 130. Just pop in the middle. And then for food, let's look up what the average day of meals would cost in Seattle. So just hopping in Google, budgetyourtrip.com, reliable source, maybe, says that the average cost of food in Seattle is $38 per day. And I think that's pretty fair. So just breaking it down, so let's consider, we'll say it's an $8 breakfast, which, yes, say waffles and a coffee, something like that. That would cost $8. And then a $10 lunch, a late lunch, and then a pretty hearty dinner for $20. That would equal 38. So I think that's fair. So 38 times 2, because we're going to be there for 2 days that the train is not, is 76, but we'll round down to 68 because we wouldn't get there by breakfast time the first day. So going back to our spreadsheet, we will add $68 for food. And after food, the novelty factor for flying, I mean, I love flying so much, but for the sake of this comparison, there's not really a novelty factor comparing flying to the train. Although again, you could argue with me for that. So then let's add up the different costs. So I will do the addition right now with my hefty Excel tool, and look at this. So flying just is a bit more expensive than taking the train. And again, this is not a very precise comparison, and if you lowballed one thing or highballed another thing, one could inch out the other. So for example, if you lived right by LAX, but you didn't live right by Los Angeles Union Station, then that would be something to consider, because it would be easy for you to get to the airport, but it would be hard to get to the train station. So just small things like that could really affect this pricing consideration. Or if you didn't mind flying in economy, the flying would be a little cheaper. So just lots of things to consider, but I just wanted to show that even though this $432 fare has quite the wow factor, it's so expensive in part because it is all inclusive. So the flying, it's a bit easier to swallow because sure, it's $200 here, $130 there, $68 here, and even the $68 is split up across multiple meals. So it's just easier to digest than the one price right here. So I just wanted to set this up to really put this in perspective and get you to kind of give Amtrak a chance. Thanks for watching, everyone, and at the end of the day, it really comes down to this novelty factor. So what would you rather spend your time and money on? Would you rather take a long train ride or a quick plane ride and spend more time at your destination? So yeah, thank you, and please like and subscribe if you liked the video. Bye-bye.